And the topic is, of this particular workshop is this: a progressive solution for a progressive illness. 12 steps simplified. I'm going to make a brief presentation of this, and then I'm going to open it up for discussion. That's all right with y'all?
Yes.
All right. Here we're talking about today a progressive solution for a progressive illness. I would have put the board up here in order to write down some things. One of the things that I wanted to draw on the board, y'all gonna have to use your imagination. It's two lines. One line and another line under it, which represents a parallel. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Parallel?
Yeah.
The book tells us that along with my sound reason, it's running parallel with an insane idea. That's what it tells us. So our purpose is to grow. The whole point, nothing but the point is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. Along with my sound reason, there's running a parallel line with an insane idea. The moment any one of them overtakes the other, if my insane idea grows longer than my sound reason, I relapse right there and then. So I'm going to have to keep up my growth with this insane idea that's running parallel with my sound reason. I want to write that down. And that insane idea is like, it almost like relates to the purpose of step 2. When we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. So my thinking is unsound. So the steps help me with that. This progressive solution was the steps that helped me to deal with a progressive illness. I wanted to write that down, but I know y'all can, because I know I'm dealing with intelligent people out here. Y'all can formulate a picture of what I'm talking about, right?
That's right.
All right, so there we go. We don't need the board. We can draw a picture in the mind. Matter of fact, a long time ago, people used to say, I can't see what you're talking about. Or they would say, I can see what you're talking about. How can you see what I'm talking about when I'm talking? You see what I'm saying? So that's why y'all can see what I'm talking about, right?
We can hear what you're talking about.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, now, this illness that we have is a word that I want to write down too. We had the first 100, had to pinpoint the illness. And they did it, Alcoholics Anonymous did it in a way that nobody else did. The doctors and the psychiatrists, the therapists, nobody could actually help the alcoholic to overcome his malady. They all tried. And the doctor, in his opinion, he said, this is what he said. He said, what? With our ultra-modern knowledge of everything, our scientific approach to everything, we are perhaps not well equipped enough to present the solution that these people needed. I'm paraphrasing. You heard?
Yes.
I'm going to read it exactly so we don't miss nothing.
Okay.
It's in the doctor's opinion in, I think, his second letter. Right. The pages is out of this book. Somebody tore the pages out of the book. They must have needed it. Sometimes a person will read something in the book and say, well, it could be a newcomer. I'm taking this with me. Yeah, and they take it with them. This is in the second letter of the doctor's opinion. He said, we doctors have realized for a long time that some form of moral psychology was of urgent importance to alcoholics, but its application presented difficulties beyond our conception. What with our ultra-modern standards, our scientific approach to everything. We are perhaps not well equipped to apply the powers of good that lie outside our synthetic knowledge. They're telling us that even though they knew we needed some form of moral psychology, we needed some kind of spirituality, that they were not equipped in that field. They were not preachers. They were not spiritualists or moralists. They weren't that. Their job was just doctors. So they couldn't help us in that area. Now the doctor admitted that. Now this is me saying this. Even though the doctor admitted that, he still took their money. He still kept treating them, right? He still kept treating them. Even after the bill came along. Anyway, this illness is described as a progressive illness. In the big book, in the 12 and 12, the illness that we have is not an ordinary illness. So every time the book mentions it, it describes it. Remember I said that they came up with a solution and described the illness in a way no other person has done? Yeah. This is why we're so successful with what we have. Because they pinpointed the illness and described it for us in a bunch of areas. They told us on page 30. When you go to page 30 in the big book, we got big books out here. If you go to page 30 in the big book, they're going to tell us something about this illness. On page 30. They say, we are convinced to a man that alcoholics of our type are in the grip. Not were in. We are in the grip of a progressive illness. Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better. One of the examples of that is that man of 30. That man of 30, he was a businessman, and he decided to stop drinking, even though he was alcoholic, and did it. He said, I'm not going to take another drop until I have been successful in business. And he did it. 25 years, he went without drinking. After he had been successful in his business career, he took one drink and was dead in 4 years. He couldn't stop. Even though he wasn't drinking, he had a progressive illness. That's how they describe it. He was caught in the grip of a progressive illness. This illness we have don't sit still. I'm going to need a progressive solution for this progressive illness that I have, even though I'm not drinking. On page 115, in the chapter to the wise, at page 115, this is what they say. They say, while you need not discuss your husband at length with other people, you can quietly let your friends know the nature of his illness. That's what they mention this word illness at. And it says the nature of his illness. Not his issues, but you can tell your friends the nature of his illness. This is where they describe this word illness. So this word illness means a whole lot more than just being sick. On page 107, in the chapter to the wise, they make another statement. Did y'all see that?
Yeah.
Got to look for where it's making a statement about the illness. Anybody see it? On page 107, they make another mentioning of the illness.
Have you fully understood the nature of the alcoholic illness?
Say that again?
Have we fully understood the nature of the alcoholic illness? We might have behaved differently.
Okay. The wise at the time didn't know what the husband was really going through. They just looked at him as a drunkard.
That's right.
Or a person that's just morally decrepit. So they're telling us that if they fully understood the nature of the alcoholic illness, they might have behaved better. In other words, stop treating him like he's just an insane puppy, or treating him like you a man of no means. They may have behaved better. That's the nature. They talk about the nature of the alcoholic illness. That's how they describe his illness. On page 18, this is what they tell us concerning his illness.
18?
Yeah, at the top of the page. This is what they say. This is in there the solution. An illness of this sort, and we have come to believe it an illness. Dash. They got a dash there, which implies to stop and look at what you just read. It involves those about us in a way no human sickness can. If a person has cancer, all are sorry for him, and no one is angry or hurt. But not so with the alcoholic illness. You see how they keep describing this illness?
Yes.
And they're describing it in a way that no other doctors ever did. For with it, this illness, there goes annihilation of all things worthwhile in life. It engulfs all whose lives touch the sufferers. It brings misunderstanding, fierce resentment, financial insecurity, disgusted friends and employers, warped lives of blameless children, sad wives or parents. Anyone can increase the list. No other illness does that. No other illness where I get sick, I'm sickening other people, unless I got an illness that's contagious and you touch me and you get it.
That's right.
And even if that happens, it don't cause all of this. On page 118. This is what the wives found out after they woke up. After building them and hit the wives and had an awakening, this is what they found out. At such moments, we forget that alcoholism is an illness over which we could not possibly have had any power. You heard that?
Yeah.
They're constantly describing this illness on page 50, no, not 56, on the 12 and 12, in the 12 and 12, page 112. This is what they tell us. I'm looking for now comes the biggest question yet. Oh, 111. This is where it starts off at 111. Yeah. At the bottom of the page, they said, now comes the biggest question yet. The biggest question. What about the practice of these principles in all our affairs? Can we love the whole pattern of living as eagerly as we do the small segment of it when we discover when we try to help other alcoholics achieve sobriety? Can we bring the same spirit of love and tolerance into our sometimes deranged family lives that we bring to our AA group? Can we have the same kind of confidence and faith in these people who have been infected and sometimes crippled by our own illness? I mean, how can you get crippled by my own illness? That we have in our sponsors. Can we actually carry the AA spirit into our daily work? Can we meet with our newly recognized responsibilities to the world at large? And can we bring new purpose and devotion to the religion of our choice? Can we find a new joy of living and trying to do something about all these things? That's after we've been through the steps. Because it's in step 12. You know, this illness, this word illness is what we really dealing with. Other people have been infected and sometimes crippled by our own illness. They're constantly pointing out this illness. That's now on page 571 in the back of the big book. All the way in the back of the big book on 571. Let me know when y'all got it. Y'all got it before I did. It's called the Alaska Award. This is what they say. This is the award that they gave the Alcoholics Anonymous years ago. In 1951, the Alaska Award was given to Alcoholics Anonymous. The citation reads in part as follows. The American Public Health Association presents Alaska Group Award for 1951 to Alcoholics Anonymous in recognition of its unique and highly successful approach to that age-old public health and social problem, alcoholism. In emphasizing alcoholism as an illness, the social stigma associated with this condition is being blotted out. Historians may one day recognize Alcoholics Anonymous to have been a great venture in social pioneering which forged a new instrument for social action, a new therapy based on the kinship of common suffering, one having a vast potential for the myriad other ills of mankind. Myriad other ills of mankind. This solution we have for this illness we have has the potential for the myriad of, y'all know what myriad means?
No. No.
Myriad means like 10,000.
Big one.
It means it's a great, gigantic, huge, big, multitudinous number. And what they're telling us that the solution we have is not confined to just alcoholics alone. Other people who ain't alcoholics can use these 12 steps as a solution, the myriad, the many, many other different problems in life. Didn't Narcotics Anonymous take the 12 steps and use it for them? Sex Anonymous took the 12 steps and they used it for them? Bulimics Anonymous took the 12 steps and they used it for them? All people took the 12 steps and used it. Parental Anonymous, Marijuana Anonymous, all kinds of anonymous. It's used, that's what they're talking about. The myriad other uses is not confined, this solution we have, because they of the type of illness it is. They said, we went to 571 already. Now page 44 of the big book. Page 44. This is what they tell us. Y'all notice I'm pointing out all these places where they're talking about illness, right?
Yeah.
44, it's what it tells us. Y'all see what it said? The word is here in the first chapter. I mean the first paragraph. They say in the preceding chapters you have learned something of alcoholism. We hope we have made clearer the distinction between the alcoholic and the non-alcoholic. If, when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, or if when drinking you have little control over the amount you take, you are probably alcoholic. If that be the case, you may be suffering from an illness which only a spiritual experience will conquer. So if I'm suffering from an illness which only a spiritual experience can conquer, then my illness is not confined to the body nor the mind. I'm dealing with a spiritual illness. And that's why the doctor said he was unable to deal with it. Y'all heard that? Yeah. That's why he told us that on page 114 in the 12 and 12. Now they about to round it up and bring it home. On 100 page 14 and 12 and 12, this is what they tell us. They said, we have seen AAs, that's alcoholics, that's members of Alcoholics Anonymous, suffer lingering and fatal illness. Now when they say, in this sense, they say lingering and fatal illness, they're not talking about alcoholism. Right. They're talking about cancer, old age, heart attacks, death, people dying. That's what they're talking about. You see that? We have seen their heirs suffer lingering and fatal illness with little complaint, and often in good cheer. But the illness we have, there's much complaint and no good cheer at all. So they describe it in the different. A person gets ordinarily sick, but in Alcoholics Anonymous, after they got the solution to it, they go through these issues with dying and everything in good cheer. That's what the program have given us. If I have an illness from which only a spiritual experience can conquer, this is what they tell us in the 12 and 12 on, I forget what page that was on, but I know y'all won't remember this. They tell us exactly what the 12 steps are. They say the 12 steps are a group of principles, spiritual in their nature, which, if practiced as a way of life, can expel the obsession to use or to drink, and enable the sufferer to become happily and usefully whole. So, if the 12 steps, the principles, can expel, that word can, C-A-N,
Yeah.
that I never look up, because I think I know the meaning of it, right?
That's right.
But that word can means power, ability, ableness. And it said can expel the obsession to use or to drink. And enable again means power, to make, to ability, might. It's like a person suffering, say, from a spiritual illness, because you got a lot of people that goes to different places, different religious contexts. A lot of us have had different religious experiences. You got some people that have demons in them, in their religious experience. And the preacher call them up and lay hands on them and say, "Get out of it, devil." Y'all ever heard that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And after he finished doing all that, the person walked straight to the crack house.
I did.
Y'all hear what I'm saying?
I did.
Because the preachers, the religionists, the therapists, and the psychologists, and the doctors were unequipped. They were ill-equipped to deal with what we were suffering with. So they couldn't do it. This word illness really needs to be understood. Let me give you the definition of the word illness. Illness, this is really something else. When you look it up in a dictionary, especially the old dictionary there, what it means is wickedness. Y'all heard that?
No.
Yeah. Unpleasantness. An unhealthy condition of mind and body. That's one of the definitions of illness. The first one is wickedness. When you look at in the dictionary, this is what they tell you. Different dictionaries got different meanings, but the older dictionary, illness means wickedness, unpleasantness, an unhealthy condition of mind and body. It comes from the word ill, I-L-L. Y'all hear this? The word ill means immoral, vicious, immoral, and vicious, resulting from or indicative of or accompanied by an evil or malevolent intention.
That's deep.
See, that's why we grow in understanding and effectiveness. That's why we come to big book study, to understand the nature of what we really dealing with. Bill and them understood it. That's why they never define the illness every time they mention it as the sickness of body and mind. They always described it in a way that was unlike any other description given to alcoholism until they came up. They say ill. This is ill now. I-L-L. Y'all understand that?
Yeah.
Immoral, vicious, resulting from, indicative of, or accompanied by an evil or malevolent intention, causing suffering or distress, not normal or sound. Y'all can relate to this?
Yes.
Not involving difficulty. It means worse. W-O-R-S-E and worst. W-O-R-S-T. Worse and worse. It means that. With displeasure or hostility. In a reprehensible manner. When y'all look this word up in the dictionary, y'all gonna see that I'm not just whistling Dixie. This is what we was dealing with. In a reprehensible manner. Y'all ever heard anything about a reprobate?
No. No.
See, he gave them over to a reprobate mind. Because they chose to worship the creation rather than the creator.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? And it used this word. Remember, we're dealing with a book that was written moral as well as spiritual, right? So these words that they're giving us, even though they're physical words, they have spiritual connotations and meanings. So if we just read it and not try to equate the spiritual or moral significance in the real message in which they're telling us that our illness runs way past the mind and the body.
Yeah.
Didn't they tell us that when the spiritual malady is overcome, we automatically straighten out mentally and physically? So the real issue is not the mind and the body. Because if we deal with the spirit, the mind and the body are automatically straightened out. With no thought or effort on our own, right? So we're dealing with, like they used to say a long time ago, they said we're not dealing with, this is what people told us now, that we're not dealing with flesh and blood.
Yeah.
But we're dealing with wickedness.
Yeah.
Spiritual wickedness in high places. Y'all ever heard that?
Yeah.
So the book, they borrowed the principles from religion and medicine. So if we don't tie this in,
We screwed.
you know, and tie it in and see what they're really coming from, it's just like they told us, this illness we have, once we get it under control, and we not drinking, they say, and we can do this about 2-3 years, 4-5 years, right? Then all of a sudden we go out again and start drinking again. Don't it get worse?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
They say it gets worse, never better, right?
Yes.
It gets worse, and I come back up here picking up a desire tip, right? It gets so worse sometimes that I'm embarrassed to come back because I really don't want to do it. Y'all, you know, some people get like that. Well, we're dealing with a progressive illness. Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better. Didn't they tell us a long time ago that whenever the demon was cast out of the man, that he don't sit still, he go back, and if your house ain't in order, he come back with 7 other demons worse than him?
Right.
That's what they told us, right?
Right.
So, with this illness we have, it's just like that, spiritually. When I go back out, I come back in worse than I was when I came back.
That's right.
Like me, I know what my illness looked like 14 years ago. I know what it looked like. I didn't know what color the underwear was when I came up here that I had on. I came up here looking for a free plate of food. I knew what my illness looked like then. 14 years later, I don't know what that monster looked like. And I ain't trying to find out. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Y'all hear what I'm saying? They told me you can't keep it if you don't give it away. Y'all look at this word illness, it's spelled I-L-L. Y'all remember that?
Right.
Now if I take and put a dash between the I and the L-L, what would I have?
I'll. Like I'll.
Huh? What would I have?
Like I will. I'll.
It'll be I'll, right?
I'll.
It's all about me. That's what they're telling us. Bill and them didn't just put this together haphazardly or exact. The illness is in me, ain't it?
Yeah.
All my trouble was of who's making.
Mine.
And it producing coming from deep down on the inside of me.
Yeah.
This illness, it was me causing the trouble, the malevolence, the viciousness, the hostility in other people, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was me doing all that. So I'm gonna need, that's why I was talking about those 2 lines. I always have an insane idea. No matter how long I go sober, I still have this insane eye running parallel with my sound reason. Why? Because my illness is spiritual in nature. You see how Bill and them took and worded it when they talked about the illness. they worded it so you will make no mistake about it that you can't identify this illness with any other. They came up with something that enabled us to see what exactly we were dealing with. What the 12 and 12 told us, they said, driven under the lash of alcoholism, of alcohol. We were driven into AA. Y'all, right?
Yeah.
Not willingly coming. We were driven. Circumstances forced us to come into AA, and it was here that we learned the fatal nature of our situation.
Yeah.
Ain't that what the 12 and 12 said?
Yeah.
It was in here. When I came up here, I found out the fatal nature of my situation, not my condition. Y'all watch movies?
Yes.
All the time.
Well, sometimes when they have a hostile situation and the police chief come on the scene, he don't say, what's the condition? He said, what's the situation? Y'all, right? Y'all heard that?
Yeah.
He said, what's the situation? You know, I learned in here the fatal nature of my situation. They told me to continue to watch. That's step 10, right? For selfishness, dishonesty, self-seeking. They told me to continue to watch, right? After I done put this son of a gun in check. Because he gonna pop up again.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a progressive illness. Like when you go to a doctor, and the doctor gives you a prescription. Now you have a life-threatening illness. And he tells you, take this medicine as prescribed. 1 pill at 3 o'clock, 1 pill at 6 o'clock, 1 pill at 9 o'clock. And you got a life-threatening illness. Even if you go to sleep, you're going to have the alarm clock to wake you up at the time when it's supposed to take that medicine. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah.
Right.
All right, but with this illness, they give us a prescription too. They tell us, before you go to bed at night, do this.
Huh.
Don't they? They say, when you wake up in the morning, do this. Don't they do that? They told us, he said, faith must go with us 24 hours unless we perish. Didn't they say that? Faith must go with us 24 hours unless we perish. They gave us a design for living that works in rough going. Man, when other people are crying about situations, relationships, and all of this, you know, we go through these same situations, but they roll off our back like water off a duck's back. Stuff that used to make us drink. Stuff that used to make us, we ain't worried about all those things no more. Long as we stay in fit spiritual condition, right?
That's right. That's right.
The moment I step outside of the fit spiritual condition, I'm vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's like I have a circle, and I'm protected in this circle.
Right.
Long as I stay inside of the will of God,
Right.
I'm divinely protected, right?
Right.
The moment I step outside of that circle, I'm vulnerable.
Right.
Y'all have never seen these movies where the witches draw a circle around the house? Long as that circle around the house, the devil can't come in?
Yeah.
I mean, the evil one can't come in? Y'all done heard that?
Everybody.
But the moment you disturb that circle, they rush right in, right?
Yeah.
Well, basically, and the reason why I'm saying that, because the big book tells us this. When speaking to these people about these high-powered spiritual matters, one should use everyday language. You heard?
Yeah.
So we got to put it in a language where the newcomer can get it. If I stay way up here, highly charged and spiritualized, and I'm only speaking, you know, from that perspective, the newcomer will walk out of here. Y'all know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like us, we tell people,
Too.
we have had a spiritual awakening. Y'all hear me?
Yeah.
The newcomer can't get with that.
Uh-huh.
What do you mean? They talk about they done been spiritualized. He don't understand not what we talking about. We have had a spiritual awakening. One guy asked me, I'm going to say this, I'm about to close this thing down. And hopefully y'all comment. One guy asked me, I'm at Cheyenne Center. And I'm doing this meeting. Y'all familiar with Cheyenne Center?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got about 100 guys, all of them from the penitentiary. And I'm doing this meeting every evening, every Sunday at 6 o'clock. My sponsor gave me that assignment. And I did it for 3 years. And one of them, he asked me, he said, well, Kenneth, how do you know you done had a spiritual awakening? He asked me that. And I told him, I said, well, I got 100 of them, right? All of them listen for me to explain. You know, I could have told him, well, I just don't do what I used to do. Or the Lord has touched me. I could have went in that area, right? But I'm dealing with a bunch of people out there paying attention.
Right.
I told him, I said, well, let's say it's 6 o'clock in the evening. And I said, I have an old lady at home. Y'all know what an old lady is?
Yes.
Y'all know what I mean by that, right?
I don't know about no
A wife.
Yeah. And I said, she probably laying on the sofa. Might have her legs wide open. I'm hoping ain't nobody else there.
Yes, indeed.
I said, but here I am standing up here talking to your motherfucking ass. Something must have happened. Y'all hear what I'm saying? You got to speak to these people in language they can understand.
Yeah.
Then another man speaking parables all the time. He spoke in language that the person, if he was dealing with a farmer, he spoke and used farmer type thing that he could understand. If he was talking to a fisherman, he spoke in a fisherman's language. I mean, fish, what they call them, fishermen who catch fish. He spoke in that language, right? Y'all understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you got to speak where the person can understand what you're talking about. So y'all can see what's being said.
Yeah.
I have to present a physical description of a spiritual reality. These are the words. These are the words that they use. They gave us physical, literal words. But these words are physical representations of spiritual reality. That's why we study the big book like we studied. Because there's so much information in it, there are principles, and they keep unfolding, and they keep unfolding. And the longer I stay here, the more I'll grow. And the thought sometimes don't even come to me to drink. It'll come up in a dream.
Yeah.
Y'all done heard people say who got 20, 25 years old, came up here and said, the thought came to me to drink. I got an insane idea always running parallel with my sound reason. Right. So they gave us a prescription to take.
Yeah.
And one of the big prescriptions they told us to take to combat this owl or this illness that we have, to combat that, is to always work with another alcoholic. Y'all hear what I'm saying? They said when all else fails, not if all else fails. When all else fails. When I done called my sponsor, when I done called my support group, when I done prayed, when all else fails, work with another alcoholic will save the day. When nothing else will. It'll take me out of myself. Bill said whenever he was going through some traumatic trouble or some despairing trouble, or he was, what's that word they use when people feeling bad and whatnot?
Distress.
Distressful and despairing. They got another word too. What they call it?
Uncomfortable.
Yeah, when people they got this illness, people something. Yeah, when he going through all of that,
Anxiety.
yeah, he didn't know what to do. He went to a facility where they had newcomers at. He said, on talking to a man there, I was amazingly lifted up on my feet. He said, I would be amazed if he found out that working with another alcoholic will save the day when nothing else will. Bill had a bunch of alcoholics in his house, and none of them was staying sober. He was feeding them and everything, and they all was getting drunk in the house.
Yes, indeed.
And Bill told his wife, I've been working with these people for 6 months, and none of them staying sober. And his wife said, but Bill, this is the longest you ever been sober. See, long as I'm working and willing to give away whatever I've been free to give him. By me being willing to do that, I'll keep it, whether they get it or not. Y'all understand that?
That's right.
All right, so I don't want to talk too much because you know I'll be talking.
Yes.
But the thing about it is, any of y'all got any comments on what we talking about or any questions?
I got a comment. A lot of what. Hi, my name is Marcus. I'm a recovering alcoholic.
Hey, Marcus.
To me, since my coming in, joining AA, to me this is my personal opinion and feeling. A lot of things that's quoted in the big book is specified in the Bible. And I take the teachings in the big book and I combine them with the Bible. I take my Bible teachings and I combine them with my big book teachings. And they bring me to the same point pretty much. And I use that to stay balanced. A bunch of stuff you was just referring to is in Ephesians, in the book of Ephesians. He's talking about when you leave and you put on the whole armor of God so you be able to ward off the evil principalities in dark places, spiritual warfare, walking parallel. That's the same way when Christ was here on earth. Wherever Christ was be, Satan's always there with us. That's with the spiritual thing and just with physical things being the things here on earth. So I just wanted to add that in to my just my voice and my opinion of how I try to add into my spiritual relationship with Christ and Christ with AA.
Y'all heard what he said?
Yes.
What he said, that he ties that in with his Bible, right? The Jew, other than just a Christian, the Jew comes in Alcoholics Anonymous and he ties it in with his Talmud. The Muslim comes in Alcoholics Anonymous and he ties it in with his Quran. Y'all hear me? Any religious person can come up in Alcoholics Anonymous and see nothing disturbing about his religion.
Right.
Because, the reason for that is because they borrowed the principles from religion and medicine. And they eliminated the personality. They borrowed the principles and they used the principles and completely eliminated the personality. Y'all ever heard of Jonah and the whale?
No. Yes.
Well, some people can't get with a man being swallowed by a fish. I couldn't. You understand? But Jonah was supposed to be told by God to go this way. And he went that way. He didn't go the way God sent him, and he wound up in a whale, right?
Yeah.
So every time my mama told me to do something, to go somewhere, don't go somewhere, and I went the opposite way, I also wound up in a whale of trouble.
Yeah, buddy.
Y'all hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, buddy.
And I kept on doing it, and kept on doing it, till I wound up here. See, now I can understand the whale of the prison these people put me in. So they gave us the principles and eliminated the personality. Because as long as I would have stayed, or we'd have stayed hooked up in the personality, we would have never been able to see eye to eye.
Right.
You heard?
Yes.
So they eliminated the personality, what they told us in the 12th tradition. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to do what?
Principles before personality.
That's exactly what they did. They gave us principles and eliminated the personality.
Yeah.
So when they start talking about God, whatever God means to you, that's what they're talking about.
That's right.
One guy told me, he said, Kenneth, I'm taking them through the steps. I don't believe in God. I believe that they got 3 different types of angels that they do this. I said, well, that's exactly what we're talking about.
Okay, whatever you believe.
That's it. I said, well, that's exactly what we're talking about. Most people will never know who I'm working with, will never know what my religion is, because I don't volunteer the information.
That's right.
All I do is give them what's in the book. And they can use what their own religious belief is to pick it up. One thing they're going to find out, all of them, I don't care what their religion is, one thing they're going to find out from these 12 steps is that whatever your religious belief was, you evidently wasn't practicing it.
That's it.
Right or wrong?
Right.
And so what the steps came in and gave us was, if you look at the steps, the way they're written on the board, what they're telling us is that faith without works is dead.
That's right.
That's right.
Proof of that. After step 3 come action in 4. Step 3 is a faith step, prayer. And after that come action in 4. Step 7 is a prayer, a faith step. After that come action in 8. Step 11 is a prayer. It's a faith step. After that come action in 12. Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
The very way the steps are written is telling us that faith without works is dead. All I had to do was put some action with whatever I said I believe and presto, abracadabra. It worked. All I had to do was follow the simple suggestion and keep doing it. A progressive solution for a progressive illness. I hope we've been helpful.
Oh, you have.
Oh, yeah.
We. You can imagine me, when you say you have, because look, check this out. You can imagine me up here talking like I'm talking and nobody in these rooms. Now how effective would that be? Come on.
My name is Twan. I'm an alcoholic. I am so grateful that I came to this meeting because you broke down that illness for layman terms for someone like me to understand the seriousness of this disease that I deal with on a daily basis. And the way the book is saying it is like that, you know, like they put in How It Works or wherever it is, where it talks about a man that has cancer. Okay, that's an illness, but the way you broke it down just then for me to understand helps me understand how progressive it is and why it's best that I continue on this path that I'm going down. Because it's time and time again I will come in here feeling low down and, you know, distressful or whatever, and not really spiritual. But then when I come and sit down and hear the, you know, hear people sharing the meeting, it gives me a little more hope. Because sometimes I come in here very hopeless, you know, but hearing that illness, I can't stress it enough, it helps me understand the seriousness of this disease. And it helps me understand it to the point to where I can go home and do my own research. That way, when I get with another sponsee, I can break it down just the same way with her. Because this thing is killing people, and I'm not understanding how serious it is until you just broke it down to me, how fatal this disease is that we're dealing with. It's a, you know, a spiritual thing, you know, and I love that. Thank you for that.
No problem. Thank you. Anybody else?
You know, Kenneth, I'm Mike on that.
Hey, Mike.
And you touched on it where you know, and they say it's a threefold disease: mentally, spiritual, and physical. You know, but also that's true where they say religious people are right. See to it where religious people are right. Just like, you know, when I looked into the 12 and 12, and that was the St. Francis. You know, and I remember the St. Francis prayer when I was in the 4th grade in private school. But I never utilized it. I never understood it until my sponsor pointed it out to me. And when I read that prayer, it put everything in perspective for me. But that's true. See to it where religious people are right. Not just one particular religion, but all. You know, and that's what makes us what we are today. You know, you know that old saying where they say everybody maybe have a different religion, but we are still trying to get on the same path. You know, we're trying to reach that same path. And that's true about the illness. It is. It is a disease. It's something in what I can really relate to what you were saying about the parallel, you know, where it's sane thinking. What was it you said?
Reasonable thinking.
Reasonable
Insane
thinking.
idea, running parallel with my sound reading.
And the deal was, and that's so true, my sponsor had to point that out to me. You know, it had to be more greater than my insane thinking. And then I had to go on some faith and believe that I could do this through my sponsor and through my support group. That's You broke it down, man, and that's a damn good deal. Thank you.
Well, I learned from y'all. You was here when I got here. Anybody else? Come on.
I'm Susan, an alcoholic. I'm going to read something real quick. Because I think that really kind of helped when the, there it is. It says, the 9 conditions of looking for a sponsor. I think that's important. Okay, the ex-problem drinker who has found the solution, who is properly armed with the facts about himself, can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours. Until such an understanding is reached, little or nothing can be accomplished. That man who's making the approach that has had the same difficulty, that he obviously knows what he's talking about, that his whole deportment shouts at the new prospect that he is a man with a real answer, that there's no attitude of holier than thou, nothing whatever except the sincere desire to be helpful, that there is no fees to pay, no axes to grind, no people to please, no lectures to endure. These are the conditions that we have found most effective. After such an approach, many take up their beds and walk again. You know, and as I was saying, when I brought the cell phone up to you, Hank, you know, at that point, that when I'm looking for a sponsor, those are some conditions that I'm looking for. Okay? Now have my cell phone back, please.
Y'all heard what she read, right?
Yes.
After such an approach, many pick up their beds and walk again. Where they got that from? Pick up that bed and walk. Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
Y'all ever read that in mother books?
Yes.
Pick up thy bed and walk. So these principles were borrowed from the fields, plural, of religion and medicine. Medicine means psychology. That's what medicine means. The principles we have were borrowed. Alcoholics Anonymous didn't come up with nothing new in that. And they didn't take credit for it. They said we borrowed these principles from religion and medicine. And it's serving us pretty well. Now, after this, they got food up in there. And this, what we done today, is on a CD. The CD is going to be available next month, I'm sorry. Every workshop we bring the other CD. If y'all want to get a CD, then we don't sell them. If you want to make a donation, that's fine. But the food, everything else, free. So y'all can join me for a moment of silence, followed by the serenity prayer, sitting right where you at. Come on.
So the psychology part of it, I was thinking it could be like behavior modification.
Exactly. Did y'all hear the question she asked? Yeah. See, because psychology, the meaning of the word psychology is like a study in human and emotional, emotional, behavioral characteristics. So that's exactly right.
Character building.
Characteristics, yeah, that's exactly right. God grant us the strength to accept
the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
And thank you all for letting me grow with you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kenneth. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic.
Hey, Kenneth.
This is not an open discussion meeting. This is a workshop of the Caring and Sharing group. I'm asking everybody to please turn off or silence the cell phone. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve the common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is the desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy neither endorses nor opposes any cause. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. May we begin with a moment of silence followed by the serenity prayer. God, grant me serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Is anyone attending their very first AA meeting anytime, anywhere? Is anyone attending this group for the first time and like to be recognized?
My name is Mike. I'm an alcoholic.
Welcome.
I'm Justin. I'm an alcoholic. I usually go to the other meeting that's at 10:30.
Okay, yes, sir.
Welcome.
Do this one.
That's good. What else I'm supposed to say? Oh, we're going to ask that somebody please read 1, 2, or 3 of the traditions.
My name is Helen. I am an alcoholic.
Hey,
Tradition 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends on AA unity. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. And 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
Thank you very much. Again, y'all, my name is Kenneth. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic.
Hey, Kenneth.
And the first thing I want to do is thank God for my sobriety, because I'm not stupid enough or dumb enough to think I'm sober on my own power. Second, I want to give credit and thanks to the first 100 men who wrote the textbook of Alcoholics Anonymous, because they wrote one of the greatest literary masterpieces of the 20th century. It's not just my opinion, it's a fact. To my sponsor, who took me to the 12 steps, to this fellowship, I'm indebted to everybody that I just mentioned. You know, so I'm a part of that. This workshop, on the flyer, what it says is, a few simple rules for a self-imposed crisis. A few simple rules for a self-imposed crisis. The first thing we want to do is look at what got us to this point. Right here, I put up illness, the word illness. Then I got the word ill under that, and crisis under that. In order to understand what we're really dealing with, I don't know if some people have heard people say, I wasn't a bad person. I was a sick person trying to get well. Any of y'all ever heard that?
Yes.
Well, a half-truth equals a whole lie.
I'm sorry.
It really does.
That's true.
Yeah. Nowhere in the big book does it tell us that. You know, I'll greatly underestimate this illness that I have if I do. Because the word illness, as it's written up there, this is the meaning of the word illness. That's why I put it up there, so we can look at that word. This is the meaning of it. When you look it up in the dictionary, wickedness, unpleasantness, an unhealthy condition of mind and body. It comes from the word ill, I-L-L, which means immoral, vicious, resulting from, indicative of, or accompanied by an evil or malevolent intention, causing suffering or distress, not normal or sound, involving difficulty, worse, W-R-S-E, and worse, W-R-S-T, with displeasure or hostility, in a reprehensible manner, the reverse of good, something that afflicts, troubles. some of y'all might be able to agree with some of those definitions, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what some of us did. I can't say all of us. But all of, you know, the people who are afflicted and inflicted and afflicted my illness on didn't see me as a nice person trying to get well. Y'all hear what I'm saying? They had some more terrible words for me than what I just described.
Oh, yeah.
And it was loaded with expletives. Y'all know what expletives is, right?
No, I know. Curse words.
Yeah, cuss words. So, we're dealing with a self-imposed crisis. A few simple rules for a self-imposed crisis. Now, when we get to this word crisis, and looking it up in the dictionary, this is what it means. A time of intense difficulty, trouble, or danger. Synonyms: catastrophe, calamity, emergency, disaster. 2. A time when a difficult or important decision must be made. Critical point, decisive point, turning point. We have big books, pardon me, we have big books in 12 and 12 in the back. So, you know, if you follow along with us, if you get a big book and a 12 and 12, you can easily see that what's being presented in most cases is coming from this book. Third definition of crisis. The turning point of a disease when an important change takes place, indicating either recovery or death. That's the meaning of crisis. Now, when we turn our books to page...
Can you say it again, please? I'm sorry. Will you
Say-
repeat that last part? The third meaning of
The
crisis?
third meaning of crisis, the turning point of a disease when an important change takes place, indicating either recovery or death. This is the point in my crisis when one or the other is going to take place, and there ain't no middle of the road solution. It's going to either be recovery or death. I'm going to reach a point where, like the big book told us, we reached a point where we had but two alternatives. One was to go on to the bitter end, and the other one was to accept spiritual help. Two alternatives. Alternatives, not choices. Alternatives. By not choosing one, I automatically choose the other. That's where the point, this crisis has, that's where I've come to a crisis in my development. So it's a few simple rules for a self-imposed crisis. Now, if we turn to page 44 in the big book. Y'all got it? Mm-hmm. This is what it says. In the preceding chapter, you have learned something of alcoholism. We hope we have made clear the distinction between the alcoholic and the non-alcoholic. If, when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, or if when drinking you have little control over the amount you take, you are probably alcoholic. If that be the case, you may be suffering from an illness which only a spiritual experience will conquer. This word conquer that they use, which only a spiritual experience will conquer. Now, those of us that's been here a minute, we know that the big book itself said that we have written a book which we believe to be moral as well as spiritual. Y'all read that? Yes. So that means that what they're saying, the physical words that they are using carry spiritual connotations. Because we've written a book which we believe to be moral as well as spiritual. So they are giving us physical descriptions of spiritual realities. That's what they're doing throughout the textbook of Alcoholics Anonymous. So, this word conquer, it means to either overthrow, defeat, overcome a problem, or win a war, conquer, right? Y'all done heard about the conquering hero. So,
Can I hear the definitions again, please?
we will definitely get back to that. But let me get this plain, and I'm gonna have all the definitions for you, because I got them written down.
Okay.
I have them written down. I'm gonna give them to you. I have them written down. You ain't gonna lose nothing on this. So this word conquer, we dealing with a spiritual illness, which an illness which only a spiritual experience will conquer. The first word of the big book, the very first word of the big book on page 1 is war. War. That's the first word of the big book, war. That's telling me that I'm getting ready to go and involve myself in a spiritual warfare against not an outside enemy. Because this crisis is a self-imposed crisis, right? So I'm not dealing, this is a different kind of crisis than ordinary crises, you know, which brings us to another point. I remember long time ago, I used to go to different religious places, and people told me that there was a war in heaven. I don't know if y'all remember this, but they told me that a long time ago. And believe it or not, the principles we have are borrowed from religion and medicine. Even though we don't preach no specific religion, the principles we have is borrowed from religion and medicine. So back in religion a long time ago, they told me that there was a war in heaven. It said the devil and his angels fought, and Michael and his angels fought, and the devil was cast down and put out. But the devil didn't go down by himself. He brought a third of the heaven down with him. Y'all ever remember?
Right.
And I used to hear that a lot, right? And I'm imagining in my head somebody throwing lightning bolts, and the man with a pitchfork up there fighting, and his little demons with horns up there, and they got a big struggle going on, right? A big war. That's how I imagined it in my mind, right? Because I was young, I didn't know. So, when I turn the page, I think it's 18 in the big book. Want to make sure I got the right page. Remember, we're dealing with a self-imposed crisis, right? Mm-hmm. And then we suffering from an illness, and we know the definition of illness now. On page 18, an illness of this sort, and we have come to believe it, an illness, involves those about us in a way no other human sickness can. If a person has cancer, all are sorry for him, and no one is angry or hurt. But not so with the alcoholic illness. For with it, there goes annihilation of all things worthwhile in life. It engulfs all whose lives touch the sufferers. It brings misunderstanding, fierce resentment, financial insecurity, disgusted friends and employers, warped lives of blameless children, sad wives and parents. Anyone can increase the list. Don't that sound like me taking a third of the heaven down with me? You know, he didn't go down by himself, right? He brought down a third. My illness, this illness I got, I'm bringing everything that I touch, and I'm affecting everybody, destroying all their lives too. Now y'all can see the correlation in what I just said?
Yeah.
So nobody don't go start getting spooky. Yeah, we don't want nobody to get spooky. Now this illness And we talked about the first word in the big book is walk. Then we talked about, we mentioned somewhere, conquer. And the big book uses words like ready. Ready. If you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps, right? My Creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me, right? Yes. I'm ready. We're entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character, right? But the word ready, we hear that word so much we never look it up in the context with which they're talking about. The word ready means to be prepared for use or for action. As in a combat-ready soldier. Y'all heard? To be prepared for war. That's one of the meanings of it. Y'all see how this big book is tying in? That it's going to hit that definition with the people who have religion, and it's going to hit the definition with the people who don't have religion. It's gonna, the people who don't have no religious concept gonna see it as, I'm just ready. The people with the religious concept gonna say, well, ready means as in a combat ready soldier. Because we used to sing songs a long time ago talking about, we are soldiers in, y'all remember that? Yeah. And I'm having to stay on this battlefield until I die, right? They told me it's a lifelong process, right? Once I come in here, I don't go out. That's what they told me a long time ago, right? So we talk about an illness that's a spiritual illness, that we need a few simple rules because this person that's around here talking about, I wasn't a bad person. I was just a sick person trying to get well. Like I said in the beginning, a half of truth is a whole lie. Remember? So, no, that's one of the reasons why I had to take, to show y'all what's happening here. I had to take, in one of the rules that we've been given, a searching and fearless moral inventory, right? Moral means good and bad. So how can I say I wasn't bad when every resentment I had gonna wind up in me being selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, inconsiderate, or afraid? Right or wrong? Right. So, you know, every resentment I had, and if some sponsors tell people, well, you didn't play no part in that. You were such and such years old. You couldn't have no part in that at all. Now, you know, for instance, if I'm molested, I'm 5 years old, right? Well, my cousin molested me. At 5 years old, it affects everything. My sex relation, my personal relation, my self-esteem, my security, it affects everything. My pride and everything. Right or wrong? Right. So now that I done said what I'm affected, where am I at fault? 5 years old at the time. The sponsor says, the ignorant sponsor, I mean. You didn't play any part in that. Well, the big book never asked me what part I played, right? The book says, where was I wrong? Where was I at fault? You know, where was I to blame? It never mentions a part. Because if I only get a part and claim a part in it, by the time I get to step 9, what I'm going to say is, when I'm making amends, yeah, I did that. But I wouldn't have did it if you wouldn't have done that. You heard what I'm saying? So when I'm claiming a part, I'm partializing my recovery. I had to dismiss the other person that was involved entirely, completely. And when I get to that part, that person don't exist. So who the only one standing in that column? Me. Where was I at fault? I had to find where I was dishonest. Well, Kenneth, how was you dishonest? Because I didn't tell nobody. Right. Wow. It happened more than once. Wow. Y'all hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They got two kinds of lies. The lie of commission and the lie of omission. And the lie of omission is worse than the lie of commission. I was in fear because I didn't want nobody to know. Especially when I was in prison. I sure ain't want them to know about it. Y'all understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah. See, because when I went to prison as an adult for the first time, I was 17 years old. A good-looking boy. And they were singing songs like Ain't No Joy, like a brown butt boy. That's what that's what I'm saying. So, you know, the book says we wear masks, right? You know, but you know, in the back of my mind, I'm still remembering what happened way back when, right? But another part where I had to find out where I was at fault was I was inconsiderate. Person said, well, how can you be inconsiderate? Because I'm inconsiderate of the fact that the person who did this to me had to be sick. Y'all heard me?
Yeah.
But I'm not thinking about his sickness. I only think about how I was affected.
That's right.
Y'all heard what I said?
Yes.
So I had to find where I was at fault. And if I don't do that, I'll never let go of that resentment.
That's right.
That person can walk into this door right now. I can walk up and give him a hug. Where before I laid at his house waiting for him to come home with a 38 and a 32. I'm talking about pistols. Yeah, so I had to relieve myself of this resentment. So let's get back to where we was at. This person, one who's suffering from an illness, because the people who didn't hear the definition of illness still wasn't in here, didn't hear the definition of illness. So I'm going to repeat that, Jan, and I still have it for you anyway.
All right.
So this is the definition of illness again. For people who came in late. And I said this because they got some people who be saying, I wasn't bad. I was just a sick person trying to get well. And I'm going to repeat it. A half-truth equals a whole lie. I'm going to say that again. This word illness, the spiritual illness that we suffer from, this is the meaning of it. Wickedness, unpleasantness, and unhealthy condition of mind and body. And when you look it up in the dictionary, you're going to find out I'm right on time. It comes from the word ill, which means immoral, vicious, resulting from, indicative of, or accompanied by an evil or malevolent intention, causing suffering or distress, not normal or sound, involving difficulty, worse, W-R-S-E, and worse, W-R-S-T, with displeasure or hostility in a reprehensible manner. The reverse of good, something that afflicts, trouble. One of the meanings is in a reprehensible manner. Y'all ever heard a long time ago where one book said that he gave them over to a reprobate mind?
Yeah.
Because they chose to worship the creation instead of the creator. So here I am worshiping self. And remember, they had war, remember? And this enemy took down a third of the heavens with him. Just like my illness don't affect only me. It brings down and engulfs the lives of everybody who I'm around. So I'm behind about, I wasn't bad. No, I was terrible. You know, this is the reality. I'm asking the whole question. Remember the question, but hold it. Because there's so much to present that I want to present what we present, because this meeting is not confined to just here. Other people is going to get to, because we record these what you call them? Yeah, these sessions. We record them on CDs. And after the next month, anybody can come up there and pick them up. So, I explained that to explain to the people who didn't hear the definition of that word illness, which brought us to a crisis, a self-imposed crisis. See, a tornado, a hurricane, a tsunami, earthquake, floods, and stuff are crises, right?
Yes.
But this crisis is a self-imposed crisis. And we don't want no person who's suffering from all of these definitions running around loose in a society. Especially because his illness gets worse, never better, right? We either want to lock this son of a gun up, or we're going to give him a few simple rules.
That's right.
And one of the rules takes place on page is this? 77 in the 12 and 12. Page 77 in the 12 and 12. This is one of the rules. Y'all got it? Steps 8 and 9 are concerned with personal relations. First, we take a look backward and try to discover where we have been at fault. Next, we make a vigorous attempt to repair the damage we have done. And third, having thus cleaned away the debris of the past, we consider how, with our newfound knowledge of ourselves, we may develop the best possible relations with every human being we know. This is a very large order. It is a task which we may perform with increasing skill, but never really finish. Learning how to live in the greatest peace, partnership, and brotherhood with all men and women of whatever description is a moving and fascinating adventure. Every AA has found that he can make little headway in his new adventure of living until he first backtracks and really makes an accurate and unspared survey of the human wreckage he has left in his way. Didn't they tell us that the alcoholic like a tornado roaring his way through the lives of people? That's not a sick person trying to get well. He's a destructive force. Then he comes up here with that attitude. When he come up here, he like the man that come up out the storm cellar talking about ain't it grandma, the wind stopped blowing? Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
You know, so when I got that attitude, that's the attitude. I come up here, I'm sober, and I'm thinking everybody's supposed to start treating me all right. You know, I've been clean 30 days. Y'all still treat me like I'm using. You still hide your pocketbook. All this kind of stuff. Anyway, that's one of the rules. That's on step 8. We're talking about a few simple rules. On page 74 in the big book. This is another rule that sometimes we just completely overlook. What page I told y'all?
74.
74. This is a hard rule, y'all. And see in the middle of the page where you see such parts of our story? Right in the middle of the page. Such parts of our story we tell to someone who will understand yet be unaffected. The rule is we must be hard on ourselves, but always considerate of others. Y'all ever heard that?
Yeah.
Well, some people up in these rooms be talking about just beat yourself with a feather. Y'all heard? That's what some people say. The rule is that, see, self is so dangerous that I can't just lightly spank him or tap him with a feather. Y'all hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
We must always, those of us who have recovered, we must always be hard on ourselves, but always considerate of others. Another rule on page 62. On page 62. In the big book. Y'all got it?
Yes.
See the last paragraph? This is the how and why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God.
Yeah.
Y'all heard that?
Yep.
Running my life on self-will is a form of playing God. Living by self-propulsion is a form of playing God. Wanting to run the whole show is another form of playing God, ain't it? So I'm going to have to quit playing God. And the big book mentions something about the devil. I think it's on page 11. For people who really don't know, we borrowed these principles from religion and medicine, right? So on page 11, this is what I think Bill said. He said, the wars, on page 11, y'all got that? Which have been fought, the burnings and the chicanery that religious dispute has facilitated, made me sick. I honestly doubted whether on balance, the religions of mankind had done any good. Judging from what I had seen in Europe and since, the power of God in human affairs was negligible. The brotherhood of man a grim jest. If there was a devil, he seemed the boss universal. And he certainly had me. See, he's talking about the devil in this part. We talk about God in another part. The difference in, even though we borrowed principles from religion and medicine, in religion, most people were brought up in some type of religion. The books that they gave us, most of the holy books, always dealt with personalities. It was always dealing with personalities. The big book does not deal with personalities. The textbook of Alcoholics Anonymous, matter of fact, God is the first person to practice anonymity in the big book because he has no name. Nowhere is God given a name in the big book. So we're dealing with principles rather than personalities. Y'all hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
They are, if it's God and the devil, then all of the personalities that I've been given all my life, like Cain and Abel, that's personalities, right or wrong? Adam and Satan, personalities, right? Moses and Pharaoh, personalities. Jesus and the chief priest, personalities. Elijah and Ahab, personality. Samson and Delilah, personality. Elisha and Jezebel, personality. David and Goliath, personality. Right or wrong?
Right.
Jonah and Nineveh, personality. Jonah and Nineveh and Noah and his people, personalities. The big book discarded all of the personalities and gave us the principles for which the personality stands. Y'all following that?
Yes.
In other words, how many people heard of Jonah and the whale?
Everybody. Yeah.
God told Jonah to go this way, right? Jonah decided he going that way, right? And he wound up in a whale, right?
Y'all teach him.
And so, when I dismiss the personalities, and I look at what happens to me, when I do opposite of what God wants me to do, don't I wind up in a whale of trouble? Y'all hear me? So, when I don't have, I don't have to be fascinated by the story of Jonah and the whale. I can look at what happened to me when I disobeyed. Y'all hear what I'm saying?
Okay.
That this is what the big book has given us. It has given us a precious gift when it told us anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions. Ever reminding us to place principles before personality. So once I get hooked, that's why we in Alcoholics Anonymous, no matter what my religious persuasion is, we're not dealing with the personalities. Y'all hear me?
Yeah.
We're dealing with the underlying principle. In the back of the book, they told us that Alcoholics Anonymous calls on two of the greatest reservoirs known to man. religion and the herd instinct.
Yep.
The desire in man for the association with his fellows.
Yeah.
Y'all remember that? Mm-hmm. We call on two of the greatest reservoirs of power. Religion is one of them. Even though we call on the reservoir of power of religion, we don't be up here preaching religion. Y'all heard what I said?
Yeah.
But we using the powers of religion. The principles underlining all religions. Y'all follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yep.
This is the gift that Alcoholics Anonymous gave us and gave the world. It actually did. So, let's say, we talking about, let's say, a self-imposed crisis, right? Self. When I look at it from my religious books and from my teachings in Alcoholics Anonymous, they got another saying. Y'all might be familiar with this. Says Satan transformed himself into an angel of light.
Mm-hmm.
So it's no wonder that his ministers become ministers of righteousness. Hear this out. For he exalts himself above everything that's called God, sits in the place of God, showing himself as God. Y'all hear that? Then the big book tells us that the first thing we got to do is quit playing God. I don't have to attribute that to Satan. I can look at myself. Y'all heard me?
Yes.
Because this has been my trouble. The big book showed me how to take that and put it into proper context and stop looking at something that's way beyond, like I'm watching a movie scene with a war going on and all that time. No, I had to look at self who exalted myself above everything that's called God, and I sit in the place of God showing myself as God. That's what I did. That's why the book says, and I'm not the only one. The big book said, the big book didn't say Kenneth had to quit playing God. It said the first thing we had to do was quit playing God. Right? And those of us who sponsor people, these workshops help us because a lot of people come up here under religious dictation. and be showing us so much of their book. Y'all hear me?
Yes.
But I had that book all my life.
Yeah.
I read the Bible twice before I even went to school. I taught my older brother his ABCs. I had scriptural knowledge long before I came into Alcoholics Anonymous and was smoking with it and drinking with it. Y'all wound up in all kind of penitentiaries with it. I did. I've been in so many different prisons. I've seen so many different things. I've seen people come in prison, and 30 days after they come into the prison, they walk around talking about, I've been called. That's reality. And 30 days after they come into the prison. And then you watch them, and then they roll out. The people tell them, roll out. Y'all know what roll out means?
Time to leave.
It's time for you to pack your stuff, you got to go. And they leave. And as soon as they get out, they hear another voice calling them. Louder than that voice that called them when they were in prison. Then they off to the races again, after being highly called. And then that same person, because I done seen this, 6 months later, he come back in prison. And 30 days later, he walking around talking about, I've been called. Y'all hear me?
Yes.
It's an ever-revolving cycle, a vicious cycle we caught up in. That's what we call it. The book calls it a vicious cycle. This behavior is repeated over and over and over. And unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there's very little hope for his recovery. That was the book that told us. So, one of the rules is that we're dealing with spiritual illness, right? So we're going to need a spiritual experience to conquer this spiritual illness. I associated that with this old saying that I understand what Bill and them talking about. I really do. Because they told us, the ones that's coming up here with religion, they told us long time ago, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities, spiritual wickedness in high places. Didn't they tell us that?
Yes.
Right. The big book saying the same thing in different words. It said, being convinced that self manifested in various ways is what had defeated us. Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
Self manifested in various ways is, boy, that's a statement. See, you got to remember who the big book was written for. The big book wasn't written for blacks. Or the average person. I'm talking about even Caucasian. The big book was written in the beginning for rich Caucasian folks. So the knowledge that's in it is carrying great weight. See, the average person that got knowledge don't read like we read. When they say being convinced that self manifested in various ways is what had defeated us. The average person who got knowledge, those who have knowledge, when they read that and they go back and read their scripture, what they're reading is this. Every personality conflict in the book is a form of self-will as opposed to God's will. Moses and Pharaoh. Pharaoh involved in self-will. Moses, God's will, right?
Yeah.
Jesus is involved in God's will. The chief priest in self-will, right?
Yeah.
David and Goliath, self-will opposed to God's will. Self manifested itself in various ways all throughout the book. In various ways, physical descriptions of spiritual realities. Y'all understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're gonna have people that we work with. And people will come, and we need to be able to help them to better understand their own book. That's the great thing about Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous will take a Christian and make him a better Christian. It will take a Jew and make him a better Jew. It'll take a Muslim and make him a better Muslim. It'll take a Buddhist and make him a better Buddhist. It'll take a Protestant and make him a better Protestant. It'll take an atheist and make him a better atheist. It'll take an agnostic and make him a better agnostic. And some people shrivel up when I say that it'll take an agnostic and an atheist and make him a better agnostic and atheist. Don't never underestimate the atheists and the agnostics. The agnostic and the atheist are some of the most intelligent people on this planet. If you listen to them long enough, they'll have you thinking they ain't got no God. We learned some of our greatest lessons from we agnostics. The phrase, as we understood him, come from we agnostics. So, it'll take an agnostic and make him a better agnostic. Alcoholics Anonymous will take an atheist and make him a better atheist. I've worked with atheists, taking atheists through the steps. They weren't only atheists, they were also anti-American. What's that word? They got a word for them.
Supremacists?
A word when you're always trying to overthrow the government. Anarchists.
Oh, yeah.
Hardcore anarchists. I went over, they asked me to come, because this is how I met Mike. They asked me to come over and share my Black Panther experience. Y'all hear what I'm saying? Because I was involved in that shootout they had in New Orleans. Y'all, I'm just way back in the 70s. Y'all might not remember that. Anyway, I was all about power to the people and death to the pig. So, when they found out about it, because I was working with one of them named Mike, he was an atheist, right? They asked me to come over and share my experience, right? So I went over there. And I talked for about maybe 45 minutes in front of them. So when I finished talking, you know what they said? They said, well, let's What you think about opening up a AA group right here? They were very serious. And me, a AA group. I said, that's a good idea. I said, but the first thing got to be understood is, in the AA group, all this other stuff y'all talking about,
Got to go.
we don't discuss none of that in the AA group. I said, then the first thing we're going to have to do is get every one of y'all to go through the steps. They was willing to do that. So we took all of them through the steps, hardcore atheists. And once they all got through the steps, they started telling me about God. I'm serious. Even Mike. Mike was a hardcore atheist. Told me, even to when he got to step 2. Well, I'm willing to believe. I don't believe. But the book says I can be willing. I'm willing to believe that something greater than me. Yeah, that's what he told me. Hardcore. So, now this boy is bringing other people to God. You know, through the step process. So, what we've been given is great, y'all. Great indeed. Now, I'm going to say a few more things because I had a whole lot to say. I'm going to have to really conclude because I'm not going to go beyond time. I have a whole lot on this topic. I think we can do a part 2 on this.
Yeah.
You know, I think we can do a part 2 because this is far from finished. Okay. I'm just beginning. You know, this is what it says. I want to get to this point here. Well, I'm gonna shortcut this. All right, because it's almost time to go. It's almost time to go, so I'm gonna shortcut it and get to where I want to go at. Anyway. I just got to find out where it's at. Yeah. Okay, they got a thing called a religious view in the book, in the back of the book, all right? Yeah. But before we get there, you got to realize that some people, some religious preachers, Jews, Christians, whatever, Muslims too, they don't want their people coming to Alcoholics Anonymous. Y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Some of them were amazed by it, and some were encouraged, and some were and are dismayed and discouraged, and work hard at discrediting Alcoholics Anonymous and discouraging other people from being a part of it. But the book tells us this, that you'll find nothing here that's disturbing to your religious belief. Y'all read that? You'll find nothing here disturbing to your religious belief. By personal affiliation, we include Protestants, Catholics, Baptists, or Jews, Muslims, or sprinkling of them, and all kind of people. Y'all familiar with that, right? I'm going further ahead because I'm looking at the clock. Said, as a matter of fact, you'll become a bright light in your congregation. Whenever the member of the church comes to us, and he goes through the steps, and he goes back to the church, he's not going to the church to get help. He's going there to help many a struggling priest. That's what the big book tells us, doesn't it? Yeah, he'll be a bright spot in your congregation when you go back. So Alcoholics Anonymous is not against religion. The AA principles were mainly borrowed from the fields of religion and medicine. This is at the back of the book. They got one of the people who was commenting on AA that they put in the back of the book. He said this: the truly Christian principle, not the truly Christian doctrine, the truly Christian principle that a man cannot help himself except by helping others.
That's right.
That's what a respected priest said about, that's what the tactics that we use in Alcoholics Anonymous. And he admitted, he said, we operate by the truly Christian principle that a man cannot help himself except by helping others. When I'm going through trouble, storms, emotional storms, when I'm going through trials and temptations, when I'm going through debt and frustration, when I'm going through separation or whatever I'm going through, and all else fails, what do they tell me to do?
Work it out.
The truly Christian principle that a man cannot help himself except by helping others is what we use on this word religious. They tell us in I think it's on page 19 in the big book. They say of necessity there will have to be discussion of matters medical, psychiatric, social, and religious. That's for some people who misunderstand what we're really saying and think this is a religious discussion when it's not. Y'all understand this? There have to be discussions of matters that's medical, social, and religious. Some of us have been violent there on page 15. Some of us have been violently anti-religious. That's on page 45 in the big book. In the 12 and 12 on page 166, they tell us this. Almost no recovery from alcoholism has ever been brought about by the world's best professionals, whether medical or religious. Almost no recovery has ever been brought about by the world's best professionals, whether medical or religious. And they say almost, just in case somebody say, well, my daddy was drink a lot, and he went to the church, and he stopped drinking. They got people that's like that, right? Yeah. They say almost no recovery. See, and even with that, the person was drinking, but the book told us already, you got a hard drinker, a temperate drinker, a moderate drinker, a social drinker, but that real alcoholic will be absolutely unable to stop. Right or wrong? Right. So you know, that's what they gave him that leeway so we let them wiggle out of it. Okay, yeah, he was drinking and he went to the place and he stopped drinking. Okay, we accept that. We will, you know, but that's what when they say almost none, it's almost like when Bill was asked the question about how it works. When they asked Bill, if you had to change anything in how it works, what would you have changed? Y'all know what Bill said? No. He would have said, I would have changed that word rarely to never. He would have said, never have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. That's from Bill's mouth. I studied what Bill and them talking about too, way before the book. You know, they got an old saying. I don't know if y'all remember it, but it says, study to show yourself approved. Remember that? Yeah. A workman that need not be ashamed. You know, need not be ashamed. Why? Because somebody told me you cross-talk me when I'm talking bullshit. I mean, foolishness to y'all. Y'all hear what I'm saying? Yeah. So, that's why we do big book studies. So that when the newcomer come to us, that's why it's important to go to big book studies in 12 and 12 to prepare us in more understanding and effectiveness so we'll be able to answer him according to this book rather than out our opinionated head. Y'all heard what I said? Right. We'll be able to answer them because, believe me, they'll start finding out things in Alcoholics Anonymous and then come back to the sponsor and say, the book didn't say that. Any of y'all had people come through that? Yes. They'll say the book, even I was corrected one time.
One time. One time.
Yeah. One guy told me, you'll have people coming up with so many problems. With so many problems. You know, even the big book mentions that the meetings was designed to provide a time and a place where new people might bring their problems. Not old timers. You know, new people might bring their problems. The new man can come up and say, well, I got an issue, I'm going through this and I'm going. Okay, we know. That's what he's going through. But we that's been around a minute, we have solutions, right? Right. It's no problem they can bring us that that we can, some of us ain't got no experience in, none.
That's it.
They are, the principle we've been given is so powerful. The 12 and 12 put it like this. Many people, non-alcoholic, report that as a result of AA's 12 steps, they have been able to overcome other difficulties of life. Non-alcoholics he's talking about. 15 years after Bill wrote the big book, he came with the 12 and 12, approximately 14 to 15 years. He wrote the 12 and 12, and he said that in it, many people, non-alcoholics, report that as a result of AA's 12 steps, they have been able to overcome other difficulties of life. Proof of that? Narcotics Anonymous got the 12 steps from us, right?
Right,
Bulimics Anonymous got the 12 steps from us, right?
right,
Sex Anonymous got the 12 steps from us.
Yep.
yeah.
Overeaters Anonymous got the 12 steps from us. Marijuana Anonymous, all kinds of Anonymous. Hundreds of Anonymouses have popped up using the 12 steps, right?
Right.
So why would I have to go anywhere else when I've been introduced to the grandfather of them all?
That's it.
Right.
I've been introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't need to take another 12-step program. I don't. Yeah, I'm personally not y'all, me. Anyway, we talking about principles. I'm gonna tell y'all this much, and I'm getting ready to close. We've been dealing with rules, and I haven't covered all the ground. So if y'all don't mind, y'all let me do next month a part 2 on this topic, right?
Yes.
So anyway, let me bring out a point that I wanted to bring out, that we're dealing with principles of obedience and disobedience. Remember a long time ago, y'all, they told us this, that there was 2 brothers. God said there was 2 brothers. I love one and hate the other. Y'all ever remember that? Mm-hmm. Do you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Once I take this out of the personality and I bring this into a principle, because we all know that God doesn't hate anybody, right or wrong?
Right.
But in the book it said he loved one of them and hated the other one, right?
Yeah.
So we know it's impossible that God should lie. So what's the meaning of that? The 2 brothers is obedience and disobedience.
Correct.
Y'all heard?
Right.
That's the stories and the personalities that I see going throughout all scriptures and everywhere else. Obedience and disobedience. What the 12:12 told us about that? The 12 and 12 said his drunkenness and his dissolution. Because it only used the word dissolution one time. He said his drunkenness and his dissolution are not caused by disobedience, to people in authority. But they are a direct result of his personal disobedience to spiritual principles. They are a direct result of his personal disobedience to spiritual principles. When did I first get in trouble? When I go back in my life, when I was being disobedient. Right or wrong?
Right.
I'm talking about way back when. They always told me, do this, don't do that. Do this, don't do that, right? Everywhere I went, they had rules, right? Right or wrong?
Right.
So when did Adam get in trouble? You want to look at it when he disobeyed, right or wrong?
Right.
The result is the principle will always be is a result of my personal disobedience to spiritual principles. That's why we needed rules. Because the only way a self-centered, selfish, self-centered alcoholic is going to follow any rules is if it benefits him.
That's true.
Y'all heard?
Yeah.
And before I close it, I'm going to come up with the other rule they came up with was rule number 62. Don't take yourself too damn seriously. Thank you all for letting me share. I had to close it early. Now, we're going to have this on a CD because it's going to be a 1-part, 2-part thing because I'm not finished with this. And we have food and we want to thank everybody, especially you, Andy, who contributed in bringing the food. Everybody who brought something, where y'all at? Raise your hand. Give them a hand. Thank you very, very much. And y'all eat. Now, the CDs are out there. They're not for sale. But if you want to make a donation, that's fine. But everything else, go enjoy yourself, and thank you all again for letting me share. Wait a minute. Somebody had a question.
No.
I'm not good.
Okay, well.
Well, you went over the definition again, so you answered it for me.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Wait a minute, y'all, before y'all go. Y'all can stay right where you at, but join us. You can bow your head in a moment of silence, followed by the serenity prayer. That's how we dismiss. We open with prayer, and we close with prayer. And sometimes we come up here and cuss each other out in meetings. But we open with prayer, and we close with prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept
the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Thank you all.